The Education Network presents Inside the District with Superintendent Robert Avossa.
Hello and welcome to the premiere episode of Inside the District with Superintendent Robert Avossa. I'm your host, Claudia Shea. The 2015-16 school year is well underway, but what sets this school year apart is the visionary drive of the district's new leader. Dr. Avossa, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
I am happy to be here and I'm happy to be part of the Palm Beach County team.
I described you a moment ago as being a visionary. What would you say your vision is for the district?
My vision has remained the same throughout my entire career. I want to create opportunities for kids to have a world-class education and to reach their full potential.
Well, attaining a vision takes a lot of work. Since you started with the district in June, you really hit the ground running. Let's take a look back at some of what you've accomplished so far.
I will well and faithfully
perform the duties
of
District School Superintendent.
Superintendent Robert Avossa took the oath of office in June with his focus set on improving this district while drawing from the experience of a lifelong educator. Most recently, Dr. Avossa led the Fulton County, Georgia School District as superintendent for 4 years. In addition to several other administrative roles, Dr. Avossa also devoted himself as a teacher and principal in Florida schools.
I want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to share a little bit about myself and why a meeting like this is so very important and critical for us to establish a foundation.
As Palm Beach County's top educator, Dr. Avossa made it a point from day one to educate himself about the strengths, challenges, and needs of the Palm Beach County School District.
And during that first 6 months on the job in Fulton, I did exactly what I'm going to do here, which is spend a ton of time listening and learning first. I am not leading with a series of strategies and initiatives that I've seen work. That is the wrong way to do it.
Dr. Avossa is developing his strategic plan based on feedback he received during nearly 24 public meetings.
We've got some translators who
in English,
Buenas noches.
Spanish, Creole, and Mayan-speaking communities. As an immigrant to the United States himself, the superintendent is keenly sensitive to the needs of a multicultural school district. Dr. Avossa was born in Naples, Italy. His family immigrated to the U.S. when he was 4.
I want every child and every parent to have a great experience in public schools. I've got 2 children of my own, and I've seen the great work that public ed can do with kids, and I want that opportunity for every parent and every child. I'm going to work hard every day to make sure that happens.
In addition to public meetings, Dr. Avossa is also appealing to the business community for support.
We need partners. This board and I are going to have to make some tough decisions over the next 12 to 18 months, and we need business partners, community members, and others to say, let's do what's right for kids. Nice to meet you.
As part of his mission to do what's right for the kids, the superintendent has also consulted with local representatives
Governor, how are you?
and state leaders.
What do you think that's used for?
And the most important constituents, the students themselves. So Dr. Avossa, over the past few months, you've talked to almost 10,000 people in order to create this strategic plan, which will be in place for 3 to 5 years. Let's go back to basics. What is a strategic plan?
A strategic plan works to keep the district focused on 3 to 4 big goals, right? And so we need to go back and identify what are the 3 to 5 themes that we'd like to work on, whether it's improving culture, improving academic outcomes. Those are the kind of things that we need to focus on as a system, and then create these initiatives to be able to really drive that change.
Okay, so let's hone in there a little bit. You've identified 3 potential long-term goals. One is increasing literacy by 3rd grade.
That's right. If our students are not reading on grade level, the idea that they'll be spending the next 8 years in remediation of one sort or another really is troubling. Not only is it tough on the children, it's tough on the system, and it's very costly. So having a goal like that will allow us to really focus in on pre-K through 2, making sure that our kids are making the progress they need so they can meet that benchmark by 3rd grade.
Another potential goal, of course, is increasing the graduation rate. Where are we right now, and what steps can be put in place to increase that number?
So right now, we're slightly below the average for a district like ours. We're a little bit above the state average, but we're below the national average. You know, a district like ours should have lofty goal of graduating, 90% of our students. Right now, we're graduating less than that. And we need to make sure that we're graduating all of our kids. We need to make sure that our students have some career options for them for after school as well. I think that's a really important component.
Dr. Avossa, you've also talked about fostering postgraduate success as a long-term goal. What do you mean by that?
We want to make sure our students enroll seamlessly from high school into college if that's their career path, as well as making sure that there's persistence and following them through year 1, 2, 3, and 4 to try to track those numbers and see how our students are doing and if they're completing college. We also need to be very careful about making sure that we're investing in our top performing students. That's something that I'm very interested in and want to make sure that we expand the number of opportunities that our kids have and making sure that they're recognized in a variety of different ways, including National Merit Scholar.
Well, speaking of that, I know that you've mentioned before that Fulton County, Georgia, where you were superintendent last, that you had half the size district as you have now here, but you had twice the number of National Merit Scholars. What do you attribute that to?
Well, I attribute to staying focused on what's important, and that is investing in every segment of our population, including the highest performing students. So we did put in some innovative programs where we took the top 100, 200 students in each school and invested by infusing SAT prep type programming within the school day. So the kids didn't feel like they were going to an SAT prep program, but my teachers were trained on engaging them in more deep conversation about those kinds of assessments. So they really didn't even know they were going through that, and yet they were very much, you saw benefit from that investment and making sure that we've got kids in National Merit Scholar programs.
Well, proven track program then. Okay, well, Dr. Avossa, we're going to continue our conversation right here on Inside the District in a moment. After the break, find out about the challenges we face as a district and the path to becoming a world-class district for all students. Stay with us.
We are the Education Network. We are your source for live coverage, bringing you news impacting your students, your schools, and your community. We are covering the district, on campuses, in the classroom, throughout the community. We are on air, online, on mobile. The Education Network, your best choice for school district news. That's who we are.
Welcome back to Inside the District with Superintendent Robert Avossa. We're continuing our discussion about critical issues facing our district and the development of a strategic plan that will drive Palm Beach County schools for the next 3 to 5 years. Dr. Avossa, we talked about, you spoke with almost 10,000 community members, parents and students, business leaders. What is working so far in our district?
Well, I think I heard pretty broadly that people love the choice programs that we have and the academies that we've built. That seems to be a recurring theme that I hear over and over again. They like those options and they'd like to see them expanded as well. And some of those options I think that rose to the top were the IB programs, culinary programs, programs around making sure kids have opportunities for STEM and the arts as well. Very, very popular.
And you said it earlier too, a lot of children will choose a different path. They won't necessarily go to a 4-year college education, but many of these children are getting changed in so many different areas.
That's right. And we need to make sure we give kids what we like to call in education a relevant opportunity, an opportunity that really connects with something that they're deeply passionate about. And I think once we start being a little more nimble and reacting to what the kids are interested in, but also what the business community is telling us, which is what kind of jobs are going to be available for students, and are we able to prepare them for taking on those kinds of opportunities?
That really is such a challenge too right now with the technology changing. Jobs that these kids may be getting haven't even been created yet, so it's just so important to stay ahead of the game.
That's right. It's difficult too because unfortunately our community, meaning the state of Florida, educational community, has focused so much on the state standardized assessments. I think in some ways it's driven our focus inside too much on the basics rather than really deepening the kids' knowledge. So I think when you shoot for the middle, meaning to pass a test, you really lose out on an option of improving kids and deepening their knowledge.
So we know what is working, but I know that the hard questions that you also asked, what's not working? Well, first of all, we know about the whole transportation issue. What is the district doing now to try to improve transportation for the remainder of this school year and next school year?
Well, we've never had some great reputation on transportation, although we hit an all-time low this year. A project that probably should have taken about 18 months was condensed into a 6-month period of time. And I think people quickly realized that that's just not acceptable. So we've got a couple of things that we're doing to make sure that we do significantly better than we ever have before. And that is we're bringing in a panel of experts from across the country at no cost to the district as part of our partnership with a group called the Council of Great City Schools. And they're going to do a 2-day full review of all the information that we have. And they're going to give us a list of things that we need to work on to become world class. That's part number one. Part number two is we're looking at filling every one of the vacancies and then some. We've not really had a bench of people waiting. So when you have substitute teachers available when teachers are out, that's great. But we don't have substitute drivers available. And if we've got 5, 10, 12% of employees that are calling in sick, then we're struggling, right? So that's a problem, and we've been addressing that. We've been working really hard to hire as many high-quality drivers as possible.
How's the GPS system working out?
The GPS system is fantastic. It allows us to track in a safe way the speed of our buses, whether or not they're making their stops on time. And those are things that help us also save money and on energy and fuel costs as well.
Another issue I know that a lot of folks brought up was the whole issue of infrastructure deteriorating.
I'm very concerned about that. We've done everything we can over the last 3 to 5 years to duct tape and super glue our buildings. But the problem is when you don't begin to change roofs when they need to be changed, then that impacts another system in the school, right? So do we have HVAC problems where the electricity, the HVAC, where the air conditioning is not really providing a good high quality environment for kids? Well, that's a problem. We need to make sure that we take care of the nearly 29 million square feet that we have in this school district. And that amount of deferred maintenance is a number I have never seen before. It is significantly larger than I've seen in any other district. We're nearing some estimates of $750 to $1 billion worth of unfunded maintenance that we need to do.
We only have a $2.3 billion budget.
That's right. So we're looking very deeply at how we can fund this kind of investment long term, be good tax stewards, but also make sure that we give our kids a world-class education that's chock full of technology and the resources they need to be successful.
Well, speaking of successful students, as we do talk about the aging infrastructure, there are some success stories. I know that you recently toured 2 brand new schools out in the Glades. First of all, what was your impression of those schools, and how does this level the playing field a little bit for these kids, these rural students who a lot of them come from impoverished families?
That's right. And so I visited both the schools this summer and had an opportunity to go out as well at the beginning of the school year. Was very excited about the quality of the building that we've put together there for our students. I'm excited about that. They're also what I call right-sized. They were not jumbo-sized schools that we needed to fill 800 kids. They were actually built for a much smaller number of kids, which in my mind is a better investment, and it's also more energy efficient. Classrooms and buildings are definitely something we need to be equitable with. But I always tell people buildings don't teach kids, teachers teach kids, but buildings are important. They're very symbolic in terms of an investment that we make in our public schools and how people feel pride about their public schools.
I guess another similarity we have to Fulton County is the great cultural diversity that we have. How do you ensure, when we have so many different cultures and we have in excess of 100 languages and dialects spoken in Palm Beach County School District, how do you make sure that all kids are getting an equal education, whether they are English language learners or even the ESE kids? How do you do that?
Well, it's very complicated. In a system this large, I think we need to redirect our focus and try to make big feel small. We need to be significantly more nimble. We need to be able to begin to individualize opportunities for our kids. And right now, we haven't been doing that. We've been really sort of teaching to the middle. And the real, I believe, the real downside of teaching to the middle is that the highest performing kids and the lowest performing kids really are outside of that band. And that's what I see here, to be honest with you. I think we can do significantly better on the two extremes, and we're doing pretty good in the middle. And so I think one of the focuses we'll have is really investing some time, effort, and energy on creating initiatives and programming that'll address those two groups.
You're right, engaging these kids so they're just not passive participants who are just spending the day in school.
That's right. They need to be highly engaged. We need to have programs that are rigorous. They got to be tough, right? We're not talking about creating easy programs, but they have to find interest in it. I've always said it's hard to motivate a kid to read Beowulf, and yet I know the classics are important. Can't we get kids also interested in reading through the things that they find passionate? Maybe it's technology, maybe it's design, maybe it's music, maybe it's art or history. We've got to be more creative about the way we get kids engaged in school and then draw them through the process. Technology is both a blessing and a curse. In some ways, our teachers are, struggling to keep kids motivated who are living in a 24/7 world at home, using technology and all these things to keep them highly engaged, and then they have to come and sit and listen, to a lecture and work with other students, and that's tough. But we got to keep on track with that.
In addition to keeping students engaged, and I guess this also helps keep students engaged, of course, is keeping the community engaged. We have such tremendous business partners, but we need more. Or you want parents to be engaged in their child's education. How do you motivate that culture that will help children thrive, for everyone to be engaged?
Well, we're going to make a very public statement about public education in this community when we launch our strategic plan. We're going to say, as a school board and as district staff and a community, that we want all kids to reach their full potential. And so what we'll do when we have that backdrop is say, look, how will you help us achieve the goals that we've set out? So when I go to the community, not only am I just asking for generic help, that's not what they want. They want to know specifically how they can help me. Once we identify those work streams, I can say, look, I really need help in this area, or we really need to raise money to provide after-school programming or summer internships, whatever those initiatives might look like. We got to make it a lot easier for people to help us. Right now, if you want to help us, it's really hard to come and engage and work with us because there's no easy way to connect with the district's work.
So that's ahead. Another criticism I think that the district has really received is, despite the legislation by Florida lawmakers mandating smaller class sizes, it's really kind of an average overall in different schools. So some classes are still large, and teachers in many cases are not happy about that. What can we do about the class size issue? Look,
class size is one of those spaces where you have a lot of people who have different ideas about what it should be or shouldn't be, what can we afford or not afford. I'm torn between this idea of having a mandated hard line on 18 students. If we're already having a hard time finding high quality teachers, right, and you put in these absolute hard stop at 18, you struggle finding teachers. You have now, again, look, I'm not saying it's easier to teach, 18 versus 20 kids. I know it's hard. I was a teacher, I was a principal, I get that. But the difference, the variation between 18 and 20 or 20 and 22 is very small. And those hard caps put a huge burden on a district of our size when we have to automatically go back out and build more and more classrooms. And that's very costly. So the question is, those mandates sound like a great idea, but the money has to flow with it. Otherwise, we struggle with teacher pay, we struggle with bus driver pay, we struggle with keeping our facilities up to speed. So these are trade-offs that as a community we need to be pushing back on Tallahassee and saying, look, help us solve these issues and help us make it in a way that our teachers feel like they're supported, our kids are getting what they need, and the community feels good about the options that we're providing for their kids.
Before we go to break, I wanted to touch on this briefly because I know that this was another issue that came up at the community meetings, the idea of standardized testing. What is the general feeling? Do you think that there's too much, there's not enough, it needs to be changed?
So I believe in accountability. I want to make that perfectly clear. I think every parent, and as a parent of school-age kids, I want to know if my third grader is reading on grade level. I want to know if my eighth grader, has the algebra skills that he or she needs. So I believe in that. The problem I have is the quantity. Do we really need to test every subject every year, year after year after year? Or could we identify a couple of pivotal years where we say, look, it is important that in third grade I know. Then maybe we wait till fifth grade to take another deep dive, and then maybe in eighth grade. And in the interim, let the district do what they've always done in the past, is work with teachers, trust teachers' professionalism, trust that districts will find ways to mitigate those issues along the way in terms of kids being behind in school. So I am for accountability, but my issue is enough is enough.
All right, well, I've been asking you a lot of questions. After the break, I'm going to share the microphone, and you'll be fielding some questions from some of your toughest stakeholders. Stay with us.
Dr. Avossa, is it possible for students to have more high-tech equipment?
The School District of Palm Beach County. More choice programs and career academies. More graduates. More STEM. More arts. More sports. More of everything. The School District of Palm Beach County, your best choice.
Welcome back to Inside the District with Superintendent Dr. Robert Avossa. Okay, I've asked you a lot of questions. What do you think about now if we turn the mic over to some students and teachers in a segment we call Ask the Superintendent?
Great, looking forward to it.
My question to Dr. Avossa is, how do you plan to solve the problem of the amount of children in each classroom to the ratio of working technology?
Well, Corey, I agree with you. We've got an issue with technology. I've visited several classrooms so far this school year, and I agree that we need to make a better investment, a deeper investment in technology. We need to make sure, though, that we start in an organic way, and what I mean by that is that we invest in classrooms where teachers are ready for that technology and then begin to develop opportunities to expand that and extend it. Because our kids live in a 21st century world, and then they come back to the 20th century when they get into our classrooms. So I agree with you, and I definitely think this is going to be part of our initiatives within the strategic plan.
A lot of teachers were very interested in asking you questions. Our next question is from Randy Lavery.
Dr. Avossa, I would like to know some of the strategies you're going to use to let the parents know the value of our Palm Beach County schools.
There is always room for improvement in communication. We know that. I want our community, not only our parents, to know the great things that are happening in our school district. We have some world-class schools that are producing world-class results, and I want to make sure people understand that. Also, all the choice programs that we have for our students, including some that have been recognized both at the state level, nationally, and in some cases our dual language programs have been recognized internationally. So definitely an opportunity for us to continue to improve communication and make sure people see great value in our local public schools.
And Krista Dyson from Kristen McAuliffe Middle School has this question for you.
Dr. Avossa, I would like to know if you're considering changes to our current teacher evaluation system. I know that some of my colleagues have talked to me about their frustration with their inability to be compensated and given bonuses based on what's actually going on in their classrooms, and they've been given another set of measures that are very difficult for them to attain.
Well, Krista, evaluation is always a tricky topic. It's also a topic that we all know brings out a lot of emotion. I believe in accountability. I believe our teachers and staff members, superintendent and others need to be held accountable. The tricky part here in Florida so far, as I understand it, is that we're being mandated by the state to use a particular evaluation tool. So I'm really trying to get my arms around what we have to do versus what we've added as a local district. And I want to make sure our teachers feel that the system that we have is both transparent, fair, equitable, and provides teachers an opportunity to move in their career in the right way by providing equal pay, but also giving people an opportunity to increase their pay based on their work within the school and create paths for them to improve. So definitely need to put some more time and thought into that question, but it's a great one, and it's really a national debate. It's not just one that we're having here in Palm Beach County.
And Dr. Avossa, our final question, which might be the toughest one, comes from Galaxy E3 Elementary School from Samantha Matthew.
Dr. Avossa, is it possible for students to have more high-tech equipment?
All right, so that was a great question, and thank you so much for sending that in. I'm excited about getting a chance to meet you. I understand you're a great student and you're really enthusiastic about technology, which I love. I see technology as a great way to enrich our students' learning, but we have to be very careful not to let that technology become a distraction. So I need to make sure that our teachers are prepared and ready, that our schools have the technology and the equipment that they need before we begin to engage our students in investing in devices and other things that I know work in the classroom. It took me 4 years to get to that point, but at the end of 4 years in Fulton County, every single one of our 6th through 12th graders was given a device issued by the district where all their resources were put into place within that device, and they used it as a learning tool. But it took us 4 years to do that. My guess is it'll be just as challenging here, but I love your energy and enthusiasm, and I look forward to getting a chance to meet you in your school, I hope.
And next time you do go over to Galaxy E3, you have to have Samantha teach you how to use the 3D printers.
Great.
I don't think I would ever get a grasp of it, but she is all over it, and she'd love to teach you.
That's exciting.
Okay, one final question. Here we are developing the 3 to 5 year strategic plan, but I'm going to ask you to look way, way, way into the future. Your legacy, after it's all said and done, right. How would you like to be remembered in Palm Beach County?
Well, this is a great school system, and there are so many wonderful things happening. The one thing that I really want to be able to do in this school district is raise the bar for all kids and close achievement gaps. We've got too many gaps and disparities, right, between what kids are doing, ethnic gaps, socioeconomic gaps, and I don't want zip code to be the qualifier for who gets a great education and who doesn't. So I want to make sure that, if we create a legacy of excellence for all children, that we're not only the best school district here in Florida, but that we're beating school districts like Montgomery County and Fairfax and others that have really begun to close achievement gaps in the country. So,
Dr. Avossa, it's been wonderful having you with us today, and I know that you're planning on rolling out the strategic plan beginning in January, correct?
That's right.
And then we'll have you back on the show, and we can
I'm excited about it.
Update all of our viewers on that. Thanks
Perfect.
Again so much for being
pleasure.
here.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for tuning into Inside the District with Superintendent Robert Avossa. We also want you to know that we welcome your feedback, so please contact the Education Network through the email address shown on your TV screen. I'm Claudia Shea reporting for the Education Network, keeping you informed.